Let me start here. I read in the Brain Food Farnham Street newsletter yesterday this quote here. And I think this is a good posture to have as we move forward talking about coronavirus. They said, generally, the people who know the most about something talk in terms that involve uncertainty. That is, generally, if, but, yet, possible, unlikely, words like that. People that know the least tend to talk in absolutes. That is, always, never, will. The language you hear and read, be it online or in person or here on the First, is a proxy for quality. While we have a tendency to seek out certainty, nuance is generally more accurate. Not a great way to start out a TV show. I understand that, because you want certainty. We're always looking for certainty. We're looking for answers. And for so long, we've been trained to think, because the people on the TV tell us, but we've been trained to think that people on the TV know everything all the time with 100% certainty. And still, amazingly, every time they're wrong, we come back running for more of that certainty. That was just wrong. I'm not going to play that game with coronavirus. It's too important, and there's still far too many unknowns. And the people who I read or hear talk about this in absolutes, I'm going to discount their opinion just a little bit. And the people who speak in uncertainty, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to that. So that's the first thing. Here's where I'm at right now. There's people I admire and trust and value who are saying that this thing's going to be really bad in the next couple weeks here. And a lot of people are going to die, and or there's going to be major second-order consequences that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And there's also a lot of people who I admire and trust who are saying this thing's way overblown, and it's going to peter out in a few months. And I look at this, I was like, oh, I like you, and I like you, and I like, what do you do with that? So I want to present you here with information the best that we know it. Let me start with my conclusion, then we'll work backwards. I still believe at this moment, what's the date? March 9th. I still believe at this moment, let me quote Andrew Yang. I think this is a good example of uncertainty, speaking with a little bit of uncertainty that I think is valuable right now. He says, the fear of the coronavirus, the fear of it, is likely to be as or more destructive than the virus itself. See the word there, is likely to be? I like that. And we've said from the jump, that the forced quarantines, the shutting down of conferences and travel, that's bad for business and it's bad for life. Like, that is what's going to be really damaging to people's lives, right? And things like, what if someone's having a wedding and none of the guests, right, who are flying in are coming? Or more serious, what if someone wants to go see their dying parents on the other side of the country, but domestic travel is shut down in and out of Seattle? Just major disruptions to the flow of life that we become accustomed to. What do we do when local sporting events or local fairs or concerts or just anywhere that people gather and therefore also make a living? What if those are all shut down? A ton of stuff in Europe has been shut down lately. Car shows, sporting events, you name it. Here's a picture of Rome from this weekend. That's the Colosseum. There's no people. Now, I know the economy is not the most important thing, but that's not good for business. We'll talk about the economy coming up here in a little bit about with all this. But so that's that point. I also want to say I am not concerned about dying from this. We'll talk more about the health aspect of this coming up. But what if you get it and you have to go on a 14-day quarantine at the hospital? What's that mean for your family? What if the local government thinks you have it and they force you to go to a quarantine away from your family? This is a picture from Spain. There's a big outbreak in this one particular town in Spain right now. So that's right. That's not a haunting picture at all of government authorities in hazmat suits knocking on the door of people, forcing them to self-quarantine, or else telling them they must go with them right now to the local hospital or jail. That's no big deal. And as we talked about a couple weeks ago, the government has absolute, complete control when it comes to preventing the spread of infectious disease. And you have no legal recourse whatsoever. They say you're coming to the local hospital, you're going. You got nothing. There's nothing you can do. So I'm not worried that I or anyone in my family is going to die from this, but I'm also not thrilled about the prospect of being forced from my home and placed in a 14-day quarantine if it comes to that. So what do we do as a society if things like this start happening? And I'm not excited about a self-quarantine either, right? I have a 2-week supply of food, but it's not so much the scenario of we're healthy and we don't want to leave the house because we might get sick. It's more of if we're sick and we can't leave the house. We're not allowed, like people in hazmat suits come by, check on us, make sure we haven't left the house. You think people were have you ever seen this video? There's a bunch of videos like this. You guys have the Costco, or this one's not Costco, but there's videos out of Costco and everything. People fighting over toilet paper, right? There's runs on toilet paper, right? You think that stuff like that's bad? You ain't seen nothing yet. And Jason Howard had made a really great point on this. He shared that video, and he said, this is why you should always be prepared. Not because you think it's Armageddon, but because human beings are insane when they're scared and desperate. So are you prepared not so much for coronavirus even, but for human beings who are scared and desperate? Slater Crusaders, thanks for watching the first on YouTube. If you want more, like, subscribe. We got plenty.